the seafood market in Japan. My name is Mena McNiven, and I'm the food industry specialist at the Department for International Trade. We're partnering on this event today with SDI, Seafish, and Seafood Scotland. Could you move on to the agenda slide, please, Philip? So we have a full agenda for you today, and we are extremely grateful to all of our guest speakers for taking the time to present and to participate in the webinar. I'd just like to mention a few housekeeping points at this stage. So firstly, the webinar is being recorded. So if you don't wish to be filmed, please can you turn your cameras off? And secondly, for translation purposes, we ask that any questions were submitted in advance of the webinar. So we'll be answering the questions that we've received, but we will also be providing contact details at the end of the webinar, where you can pose any further questions and also get support for exporting to Japan. So I would like to go straight into our first session today and introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Nozomu Takaoka, who has recently assumed the post of Consular General of Japan in Edinburgh. So I'd like to welcome him to the UK and thank him for offering to make the opening remarks this morning.
Thank you, Mina, and thank you very much for inviting me to join this webinar from Edinburgh. I am encouraged to observe familiar names such as the Scottish Salmon Company, my neighbor in the West End, as well as Scottish Development International, Department of International Trade, and Seafood Scotland. I would like to commend them for the great timing of this webinar, only 3 days after Japan-UK Free Trade Agreement was signed, the first ever trade agreement signed by the UK government after Brexit. The agreement includes a long list of geographical indications. From January the 1st next year, over 70 Scottish products, such as Scottish salmon, will be protected in the Japanese market as such. Among them, I must confess actually, that I have not tasted yet Abroth Smokies, which looks like a delicious Japanese soul food, aji no hiraki. Another obvious element is COVID. Although the pandemic adds to the cost of long-distance travel, paradoxically, we can be connected more efficiently by digital communication like today, and I expect that quality and hygiene of the food industry will be highly valued more than ever in the new normal to prevent the spread of the virus. These new developments could actually offer great opportunities for the Scottish seafood export to Japan, because digital communication can be useful in transcending long distance, and because quality and hygiene is distinctive characteristics of the Japanese market and Scottish products. In this changing environment caused by the pandemic, the Consulate General of Japan in Edinburgh is in regular contact with the Directorate for Business and External Relations of the Scottish Government, as well as the Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on Japan, in order to ensure smooth operations of the Japanese companies operating in Scotland. I hope that today's webinar will be also useful in further promoting our economic relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Takaoka, for taking the time to participate today. I would now like to move on to our next session, which is an overview of the seafood market in Japan, presented by Mr. Tetsuru Kawagoe, the General Manager of the Seafood Promotion Agency and Japan Fisheries Association.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kawagoe of Japan Fisheries Association, in charge of Seafood Consumption Promotion Center. Today, I'd like to talk about basic information of seafood market in Japan. Next, please. Content is like these subject. Next, please. This is the seafood consumption trend worldwide. As you see, the Japanese seafood consumption is declining since 2001, while other countries and region is increasing. Next, please. And the Japanese seafood market size is about 5.6 million metric ton, which is whole round base, green weight, and including seafood imported from abroad, 2.5 million metric ton, and 16.1 billion US dollar value. Next, please. Here, some specific species I'd like to introduce. This is the salmon import, and the right-hand side graph is the total. The about 250,000 metric ton of import. And you see the blue color brick bottom of the graph. This is the fresh chilled salmon. Major player is Norwegian Atlantic salmon. They have established their market for Japanese to eat salmon raw. We have our own wild salmon in Japan, but we have never eaten salmon raw because of parasite, anisakis. And but the Norwegian people introduced to eat salmon raw and establish those quantity, maybe 20, 30 years effort. Yes, and next, please. This is mackerel, mostly frozen products imported to Japan. And this, これさせないんですね。This brown color is the prepared mackerel, like canned mackerel or fillet, something like this. And this one is also major player is Norwegian. And this increased preparation product is increasing these 2 years. And I think mostly is canned mackerel. These 2-3 years in Japan, we have mackerel boom, and the mackerel consumption is increasing. Next, please. This is herring, mostly frozen. And this herring is not so popular fish in Japan. And herring roe is more important or more famous as we eat in New Year's Day. And we import from USA, Russia, Canada. These 3 countries are major exporter. Next, please. This is crab. We have 2 species, snow crab and king crab. And snow crab is we import from Russia, USA, mainly. And some of them is live crab, king crab and snow crab from Russia, sometimes alive. Snow crab from USA and Canada and Russia, mostly frozen. And we have a small portion of import of blue swimming crab. These are gray one. You can see. Hi, next please. For the langoustine, Ms. Hatsuda is asking me to show this market, but I couldn't find the specific data for this item. My friend, a shrimp specialist, mentioned that Japan has imported New Zealand scampi from time to time, but not so much quantity, maybe around 100 metric ton per year. Next, please. This is our domestic catch, wild fish, mackerel and salmon. As you see, the salmon catch is a little bit decreasing. Used to be, we have 200,000 metric ton of wild salmon, but now 60, 70 metric tons. And the mackerel is a kind of stable catching. Next, please. This is the number of import from UK. These 3 years, you are increasing your export to Japan. Next, please. This is the distribution flow from UK to Japan. The exporter, you will have the partner importer in Japan, and partner in Japan will take care of your business. And inside Japan, your importer take care of the business. Next, please. This is the flow in Japan. Importer supply the products to wholesaler, auction market, and a big supermarket chain or restaurant chain, or all customers. And those wholesaler, auction market wholesaler would be your partner, importer, and even more supermarket chain import by themselves from abroad. Next, please. This is the regulation in Japan to show some information to the consumer. These several points are labeled on retail packaging. You have to show those information on the package. Even more, genetic modification, allergy, and nutrition information you will be required to show. Next, please. This label is not retail packaging. This is wholesale products, so much easier or simply. Next, please. This is the Japanese consumers' request. Seafood products, freshness comes first before everything. And the people in Japan want healthy, economy, easy to prepare products. Hi, next, please. Looks tasty picture. Hi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kawagoe, for an excellent presentation on the seafood market in Japan. I'd now like to move on to our next session, which is a panel discussion on the impact of COVID-19 on the Japanese market. And I'd like to introduce you to our three speakers for the panel. Ms. Hiroko Sasaki, food journalist and founder of Chefs on the Blue. Mr. Hiroko Kawasaki, Japanese representative for the Scottish Smoked Salmon Company. And Mr. Kiego Yoshida, the trade specialist for SDI.
Thanks, Manna. Thanks for having us here. My name is Keigo, based in Japan, working as an SDI trade advisor for the food and drink here. For the session 2, needless to say, COVID-19 has had a severe impact on Japanese food and drink industry and seafood industry, of course. In February, the Japanese government announced the first COVID-19 emergency response package. Key measures include home return support for Japanese travelers in abroad, strengthening of immigration control. In April, the Japanese government issued a declaration of a state of emergency to prevent the spread of infection. End of May, the government lifted the sense of state of emergency. Food services are heavily impacted because outing restriction reduced the demand. Restriction has been lifted now. However, there are a number of elements cause food service industry's business to remain very difficult, such as teleworking and eating more often at home has seemingly become the new norm since the outbreak. It could take a long time before we see the sizable recovery in demand. COVID-19 also has had a severe impact on global shipping and operation. Due to reduction of cargo, price went significantly high. High logistic cost is really the problem. We all know COVID-19 has had an impact on the economy. So today, we have two guest speakers here, Mr. Hiroko Sasaki, of food journalist and founder of Chef for the Blue, and Hiro Kawasaki, of Japanese representative of the Scottish Salmon Company. We shall take a look at the latest update of on the economic impact of COVID-19. So we have a most frequent questions from UK seafood suppliers about which is current situation of restaurants chain and the supermarket chain in Japan. So Sasaki-san, could you tell us about your view on impact of COVID-19, please? Sasaki-san.
Sorry, let me introduce myself.
No, it's all right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Hiroko Sasaki. I'm a food journalist writing about food and restaurant and culture and so on. I'm also founder of Chefs for the Blue, which is a group of chefs promoting seafood sustainability in Japan. Okay, the impact on industry, restaurant industry, you said, right? This is the chart, latest chart of that restaurant sales and numbers. And the line, the line graph in here indicates the year-on-year sales of all the restaurants in Japan. And you can see until February of this year, 2020, there's ups and downs, but we can still call it stable, I think. But after March this year, it dropped hugely. As Keigo-san said, it was 7th of April, I think, the declaration of the state of emergency was on. And after that, people tried to stay home as much as possible. So people didn't go out for restaurants to eat. So it went down, the sales went down until 60% of the one last year. And it seems to be coming back after that. After the declaration was, the state of emergency was lifted in May, it was end of May, it all lifted. But still, people try to stay home. It seems people still are kind of scared and hesitating to go out for dinner or lunch. And some people, work from home, so they prefer not to go out for lunch and dinner. That's why it's still like 85% of the one last year. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. This is for the next question, right?
Yeah, that's right. Can you talk about, yes, it's actually eating habit in Japan is like already we can see the changing a lot, more and more people eating out, eating at home, and is there any impact on sushi chains restaurant as well?
Yeah, this is the chart for all the sushi restaurants, especially for 4 big sushi chains in Japan. Sushiro, Kurazushi, Kappazushi, and Genki-zushi. They're all, conveyor belt sushi chains and very famous, and you can see those everywhere. And the trend, as you can see, is almost the same as the other restaurants I have just showed. But you can see it dropped to 50%, not to 60, 50% for those restaurants. I think it's because of the foreign visitors. We had about 31 million foreign visitors last year, and it all stopped since March this year. That's why it went down to 50%. But after that, it came back dramatically, as you can see. Especially, you can see Kurazushi, it came up to 105%, actually 5% more than last year. Because I think it's because they started to go on the food delivery platforms right after the statement of emergency was declared. And also those, actually sushi is a classic food to go, item for Japanese as classic in Japanese cuisine. So it fits completely well with the takeout system, takeout food, system. I think that's why it came back really dramatically. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
It is very good to see the recovery so quickly, isn't it? And yes, as you say, that like such as Uber Eats, or they might come new sort of like a delivery, digital transformation. That's like a lot of the sushi restaurants I can see that installed. And then that's really, that was like action was like really quick. And then this starts like shows like the sushi chains like effort like they made. It's like really worked well, and it's really good to see that like this quick recover actually.
Yeah.
Can you go on the next slide, please?
Okay, this is the seafood sales at supermarkets in Japan. And this bar graph indicates the sales itself. And the line graph is year-on-year sales from last year. So you can see it's completely different from the charts I have just showed, the restaurant industry. After February or March this year, it went really up. And until the end of August, it completely kept going up and went down after that a bit. But still, until even the end of September, you can see it's 105%, that 5% more than last year. So it's going quite well. People stay home and go to grocery shopping and cook and eat home. So we saw thousands of recipes going around on SNS on those months, and people prefer to stay home. It's still going, I think. Yeah. Thank you. It's like that.
Yeah, we can see the supermarket sales is quite well, isn't it? Obviously, like more, the people had no choice, and then also it's kind of still, even state of emergency has been lifted. I can see still people are afraid of going out and eat out. So yeah,
Especially,
that. Mhm.
yeah,
Sorry, go on.
especially no, especially older people try not to go out and stay at home, and those people prefer seafood. So yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah. Also, I had a chance to talk to the buyer from a supermarket. This starts also including main driven by online sales as well. It's like more and more people, like one of the reason is because people don't really want to go out, like taking commute and they're going out for shopping. But also another reason is online cash payment. That's like more and more people like prefer to use it. Even like government tried really hard before to people not to use the cash anymore. However, now like this digital transformation, because of COVID-19, people don't really want to take a cash anymore. So that it's actually number of the people start using like online, no matter like how old or whoever, just like even more older people also start using online shopping. So I think like this sort of factor is like reflect to this number. Yeah, it's very interesting to see.
Yeah, agree.
Yep. Is there any other comments, Sasaki-san?
Yeah, I have talked with the fishmongers in Toyosu the other day, and I said it's coming back. The sales has been coming back.
Oh,
But
right. Okay.
the problem is the price still keeps the same. I mean, the very low. Yeah, because they cannot sell it to restaurants industry. They can sell to the stores, but not to the restaurant industry. So that's why the price kept going down and it stays the same. Didn't come up yet. So that's the problem for them, they said.
I see. Ah, cool. But I can see like there are many, still of course, like COVID-19 is like huge impact. But I can see a lot of different industry, different companies itself, they try hard to, find a way to recover, isn't it? It's very interesting to see the sushi chains stats actually, because I didn't expect that there's such a quick recovery from that. So. Yeah, thank you very much, Sasaki-san. So it is really useful to see some stats that shows COVID-19 impact on the seafood market in Japan. We have another guest speaker here, Mr. Hiro Sasaki. So Hiro-san, as long as you were working as a Japanese representative of the Scottish Salmon Company, so I assume you had a different experience by actually selling to the buyer. So could you tell us about your view on start with a restaurant business, high-end restaurant or hotel restaurant?
Yeah, okay. Hello, my name is Hiro Kawasaki from Scottish Salmon Company, representative of Japan here. Okay, the situation about restaurant hotel, let's say when the state of emergency announced in April this year, I think the sales for hotel restaurant drastically dropped. But from April to June, the rate of operation was about 20 to 30%. But as of September now, I think it recovered to more than 50%. This is average. So I think it's starting to recover, right?
I
Still,
see.
the restaurant hotel is not so
Mhm.
good. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. What about sushi chain restaurant? Like from your experience, like especially like by your experience of like talking to the buyer from main sushi
Right.
chain. Yeah.
Well, I think the sales of sushi chain is recovering, I think. But during this April to June, because of the new coronavirus, the number of customers dropped drastically. That is for sure. But now, I think the young family coming back. But the problem is the old elder people is still staying home. They're very cautious about going out and eating. And also, I've heard that some of the sushi chain, not the biggest one, but the medium-sized sushi chain, they are reducing the number of seats in order to avoid the concentration. So still, there's a lot of influence of the new coronavirus.
So you think sushi chains like recovered more than high-end restaurant? You feel?
Yes, I think, but the sushi chain, the big ones are doing okay because they are doing the takeout and they are changing a little bit of the sales
I
form.
see.
But for the how to say mid-size, small-size sushi chain, sushi restaurant, they are still struggling, I think. Yeah.
I see. Understand. What about supermarket industry?
Yes, well, I think the supermarket industry is doing, I think, good. The sales is good. But I've heard that the problem is the supermarket is avoiding sort of concentration of customers. So the supermarket cannot do the advertisement or promotion. So that is a little bit problem for the supermarket. But I think the supermarket is doing a good sales for the normal daily use food. But luxury food, not so good. But the daily use food is okay. And also the internet supermarket sales is increasing, and they're doing more than 120, 150% compared with last year. So they're doing okay. For example, like Coke or like Oi6, those kind of net supermarket companies doing good.
I see. As you say, so the consumers in Japan, you think like they reluctant to buy luxury product, as you say. That means normally imported fish is, of course, because the imported cost is added on the price. So it's because the consumers fear of the future, or because it's like easier to get like Japanese and domestic seafood, or what's the main reason you think the people?
Well, I think because of the new coronavirus, many people is worried, but they're also sort of saving their money in order to because the future is not so clear. So I think that could be the problem. But I don't know.
I see.
That is the supermarket buyers. So yeah.
I see. Okay. From like how when you feel, so like there are three categories we talked through, which are high-end restaurant or hotel, and sushi chain and the supermarket. And do you think like all of them like recovering? And then I think like from the Miss Sasaki's slides, we learned like sushi chains recover quicker than two of other. What do you experience? Like, what do you see like from that? Like, which market is recovers faster, and which market is like recover slower, from your perspective?
Well, I think the supermarket is quite okay. The big sushi chain is also recovering very fast pace. But the hotel and the high-class restaurant and high-class sushi restaurant, high-class Japanese restaurant, still they're having problem, I think, yes. because most people goes out for lunch is okay, but for dinner, I think they are very cautious in going out and eating in dinner time. So that is the cause of the slow recovery.
I see. Yeah. So also like another element like we have to talk about because there is a border control between the country is like getting very difficult, and obviously for the people who are not allowed to go abroad now. And like, what's your view on logistics side actually? Does it affect to your business or like a general the seafood business?
Yes, I think my main business is fresh salmon importing, fresh salmon. Normally we import fresh salmon based on the passenger planes. But the problem is now the passenger plane from UK to Japan or Asia is not recovered yet. So most of us or importer is using a cargo plane.
I see.
And if we use a cargo plane, it's okay. The product comes constant, but the air freight cost for the cargo plane is very expensive. And as a result, it will be very difficult to sell in Japan at this moment. But I think this will, in a time, will recover, I think. But the problem is that we don't have any regular passenger plane at this moment.
I see. Is that just expensive? Obviously, logistic cost is higher than previous year. But is there enough cargo, or just simply so many other seafood importers also trying to book the cargo that makes your business difficult, or just a price? Or
No, from UK, if we use a cargo flight, I think it's okay now.
okay.
When we had the state of emergency in April and between May, June, July somewhere, the space was very tight. But at this moment, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. So like you can still like a supply constantly, not like for example, like if a Japanese importer want, I'm not sure like what the lead time is, but like for now, if we like importer wants like the same as usual, like in a 2 weeks time, for example, can you supply that, or is it there's some delay on logistics side, or?
No, I think it's okay. It's now constant. Yes.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear actually. Yeah. So it's actually there's a last question for you that I think because of like COVID-19 impact, a lot of companies finding the way to recover, as I keep saying this. What do you feel like? Is there any unique approach or like Japanese companies taking for recovering from a COVID-19 impact?
Yes, I think, all the food industry is hoping that the new coronavirus will end soon. But in the meantime, they are trying very hard to open up the internet sales and also the takeaway business and so on. But the competition is quite high, so very difficult. But anyway, everybody is trying to do this internet sales at this moment.
I see. So online sales and then home delivery. That's and that's the two approaches like mainly they taking, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Hiro-san. It was like very useful to see some stats of COVID-19 impact on the seafood industry in Japan. Went through Ms. Sasaki's slides, and also we had a real voice from the seafood buyers. It's been a difficult time now, but we see some companies' new approach to recover from COVID effect. Yeah, it's very useful. Thank you, Sasaki-san and then Kawasaki-san. That's all from us, Menna. Back to you.
Thank you. A really big thank you to all three speakers for taking the time today to talk to us about the impact of COVID-19 in Japan. So thank you very much. We're now going to move on to an update on the UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And this is presented by Megumi Hatsuda, who is the trade advisor at the Department for International Trade in Japan. Thanks, Megumi.
Thank you, Mena. Hello, everyone. My name is Megumi in the IT Japan team. As you saw on the news, UK-Japan FTA, so-called CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, was signed in Tokyo on Friday last week. We actually received some questions on that from some of the companies who registered to the webinar. Thank you for your question. Under CEPA, the access for seafood is going to be what is under EU-Japan EPA and at the same staging as the EU. So we can say the benefit of continuity here, as you will not suffer, any more competition from the EU, as you will be at the same stage. And GI on farmed Scottish salmon will be maintained. The door is left open for future GIs to be added to the agreement. So please lobby DEFRA, Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, if you want your product recognized as GI. You can see the full text of the agreement on the gov.uk website. And we are thinking to share information about the details on the Seafish and Seafood Scotland's website in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, for your reference, now I send you the link to the relevant documents on the gov.uk website now. Here we go. That's all from me, thank you. Back to you, Lena.
Thank you, Megumi, for the update. We now come to the question and answer section of today's webinar. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're answering the questions that were submitted in advance. I noticed that quite a few questions have come up on the chat, so we will be making a note of those and we will come back to you following the webinar. But the first question relates to salmon. So the question was, is there a market for luxury Scottish salmon? Is there a market for Scottish salmon in luxury retail? And are there any companies currently doing this? And Mr. Kawasaki from the Scottish Salmon Company is going to answer this question for us.
Okay, I think yes, there's a market for the luxury Scottish salmon, smoked salmon in Japan. It will be mainly for hotel and restaurant use. But the problem is that there are lots of competition from domestic Japanese smoked salmon company, and there are many Norway smoked salmon and Chilean smoked salmon company in Japan selling their product. But for the Scottish smoked salmon, if we find a niche market here, then there will be a good market. But I think it will take time. But I think the Scottish image in Japan is quite high. So I think using time, I think we can develop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The second question we have is regarding oysters. There are three questions on oysters actually, so we'll put them all together. So the questions are: is there a market for oysters in Japan? Is there a market for exporting unpurified oysters for purification in Japan, or must they be sent purified for immediate dispatch to consumers? And thirdly, a question on the potential for exporting oysters into Japan, and what formats and characteristics are the most in demand? And Kiego Yoshida from SDI is going to answer that question for us. Thanks, Kiego.
It's actually it's kind of like a difficult question, and Because in fact, I need to talk about, like, from my experience that it's been oyster business. It requires approval for both Japanese government and the UK government. Agreement is needed. So to answer to the last question, there is a requirement. So what I can advise is the oyster supplier from UK needs to contact like a local office in the UK and encourage. I think like the government support is needed, so that basically Japanese government and both UK government needs to be agree. And actually, one of the project 2 years ago, one of the Japanese importer is contacted us. Seafood show in Japan normally like happened in every August, and then Japanese importer was like looking for opportunity for oyster import like from Scotland. So therefore, they talked to Seafood Scotland in the back in the time in the 2 years ago, and then we've been working among DEFRA from UK and also Japanese government group, but it takes like a really long process actually. And then according to this Japanese importer, they have experience that doing the same step with Ireland. And then from their experience, they told us like took like 5 years to get approval. So I'm not sure, like, because like insofar like I don't know, none of Japanese importers got oyster approval from UK, but from that sense, this project is gonna require like maybe 5 years at least, according to the Japanese importer. So it is possible to import from Japan side to import oyster from UK, but takes a long process. And for the market size wise, well, there's demand. Therefore, this Japanese importer approaches us. So we eat oyster here in Japan, but size wise, like we need like more study. So if the questioner, like the supplier gave us this question, if they need like it's more detailed information they're looking for, we are happy to help. However, for the first of all, this project takes like long and like a very difficult step. So that's just something like I recommend that like you need to think about it to start with. That's all from me.
Thank you, Keigo. There have been quite a few questions that have come up on chat. So if anybody else has questions, please feel free to place them there. I'm now going to pass on to Dr. Lynn Gilmore to close the session today. Lynn can also provide you details. We'll be providing details of where you can post questions and find further support for exporting to Japan. So thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Mena. Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Lynn.
You can hear me, yeah, okay. Yes, thank you very much, Mena, and thank you so much to all the speakers and panelists today for delivering the webinar on the seafood market in Japan. I think it's 7:30 p.m. on a Monday evening in Japan, so they put a lot of effort in, and it's also outside work now, so thank you very much, all of you. And we're also most appreciative to the Japanese Consul General, Mr. Takauka, for his opening remarks. It has been fantastic for us in Seafish to have this opportunity to work with DIT, SDI and Seafood Scotland, both in the UK and Japan, to bring today's webinar together. So to finish, as Mena said, we'd like to highlight that further support is available to UK exporters through all our organisations, and details are included on this slide. The Department of International Trade has international trade advisors based in every region, and these trade advisors are your starting point for accessing government support. And you can find your local trade office through the great.gov website detailed here. Seafood Scotland is a specialist team providing hands-on personalised support and advice through a comprehensive range of free services, from trade market promotion of Scottish seafood to business development support. And SDI have local international trade advisors who can be contacted through the SDI website. In Seafish, we work across the seafood supply chain in the UK, and we're here to help the sector thrive. We help businesses prepare and respond to the challenges and opportunities that impact trade, and details on our work on international trade, including our suite of export guides, and we do have a Japan export guide, is available through our website at the link on the slide. So just to let you know, and following on from what Mena said on the questions, we're going to circulate a survey to everyone after today to seek your feedback on this webinar, to gather any further questions you might have on the seafood market in Japan, and we'll resolve those questions after the webinar today. And we're also looking for your ideas as to which other international markets would be of interest for further trade webinars. So you'll all receive a copy of that survey, and we would be most grateful if you could fill that out for us. Working with the IT, we're hoping to run a further webinar on the seafood market in the UAE